They say freedom comes with age, but no one tells you how quiet freedom can become. Living alone after 70 might sound like the peaceful golden years we've all earned, but for many, it turns into something entirely different. Not dangerous, not terrible, just unexpected. And if you're watching this, you might already feel it, that strange mix of independence and emptiness, that deep quiet at night, that sense that the world just moved on. But here's the thing no one tells you. This stage of life can still be rich, connected, and full of meaning. It just doesn't happen by accident. So, what really changes when you're living alone in your 70s and beyond? And more importantly, how do you keep it from becoming a slow drift into loneliness or decline? That's what we're going to talk about. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about scare tactics. And it's not about glorifying the struggle either. It's about honesty. The kind no one really shares until it's too late. The kind that lets you take control now, before little things become big problems. Let's start with the first truth that catches most people off guard. You don't realize how much structure came from simply living around other people until it's gone. When you're living alone, no one's making noise in the kitchen at 7 a.m. There's no conversation over coffee. No small interruptions to mark the passage of time. Days blur. Mornings feel slower. Afternoons stretch. And suddenly it's 6 p.m. and you haven't said a word out loud in your working years. But when the kids were home, structure was built in. Meetings, meals, chores, conversation. It all created rhythm. Living alone breaks that rhythm. And if you're not careful, your days start to look the same. Not restful, not relaxing, just flat. So here's the first habit that can change everything. Create your own structure. That doesn't mean filling your calendar with noise. It means choosing small, repeatable rituals that give your day a shape. Something that says, this is morning, this is midday, this is evening. Maybe it's a morning walk, always at the same time. Maybe you write a note to someone after lunch every day. Maybe dinner always happens with music playing in the background. The point is to make your day feel intentional again. Because without structure, time doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a waiting room. And that leads us into something even deeper, the emotional weight of silence. Here's the second truth nobody talks about. Silence, when you're alone, doesn't always feel peaceful. Sometimes it whispers doubts. Sometimes it screams. There's a kind of silence that makes you feel invisible, like your presence or absence wouldn't make much of a difference in anyone else's day. That's a dangerous place to live in. And if you've ever caught yourself turning the TV on, not to watch, but just to hear another voice in the room, you're not alone. This is where human connection matters. And no, I don't mean big social events or loud gatherings. I mean consistent, meaningful contact. A neighbor you wave to, a friend you text every Tuesday, a volunteer group you join not because you need help, but because you need to belong. Even a 5-minute chat with a grocery clerk can pull you out of your own head and remind you you're still part of the world. Connection doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real. But there's one more thing I want to share here. And this might be the hardest truth of all. You start to notice the things no one helps you prepare for. Things like the light bulb that goes out and you can't reach it. The trash that's suddenly a bit too heavy. The jar that just won't open. It's not that you can't do things. It's the slow realization that some things just take more out of you than they used to. And here's where many people make a quiet mistake. They start doing less, instead of finding new ways to do what matters. There's no shame in using tools, asking for help, or making small changes to how you live. Swapping heavy pans for lighter ones, getting a grabber tool for high shelves, setting up recurring deliveries for things you once carried yourself. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs that you still care enough to take charge of your life. Because independence isn't about doing everything yourself. It's about staying in charge of how things get done. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked at your home and asked, is this helping me live well or just wearing me down quietly? It's okay to evolve your surroundings, even if you've lived there for decades. You don't lose your dignity by adapting. You protect it. Now, we've talked about rhythm, about connection, and about keeping your environment working for you, not against you. But there's still more, because living alone after 70 isn't just about physical adjustments. It's about emotional ones, too. There's a moment, maybe it's after dinner, maybe it's during a cloudy afternoon, where you suddenly feel it. The stillness, not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. You look around and realize it's just you. No one's expected. No one's coming by. There's nothing left on the schedule. No one left to check in on. And it hits you. This isn't a temporary pause. This is your life now. And here's the part no one warns you about, how loneliness doesn't always show up as sadness. Sometimes it shows up as numbness. You stop reaching out. You stop making plans. You start telling yourself, I'm fine on my own, even when deep down you miss being seen. This is a trap that sneaks up on so many people. Emotional isolation, and it doesn't just affect your mood. It affects your memory, your energy, even your immune system. The longer you stay in that state of disconnection, the more it chips away at you. But there's a powerful truth here, too. Just because you live alone doesn't mean you have to feel alone. The difference is intention. Start small. Make one phone call a day. Send one message. Wave to one neighbor. You don't need 100 friends. You need 2 or 3 real ones you can count on. Even better if you can find a group that meets regularly. A walking group, a book club, a church gathering, a senior center game night. And if you're thinking, but I'm not the social type, let me say this. Connection isn't about being extroverted. It's about being human. You were made for connection. Your brain, your body, your heart, all of it functions better when it's not going alone. And if you ever doubt that, just think about how good it feels to hear your name spoken kindly by someone else. That little spark of recognition, that reminder that you matter. Now, let's talk about something else that changes when you live alone after 70. Decision fatigue. When you're younger, you make 100 decisions a day without even thinking. What to wear, what to cook, where to go, who to call. But as time goes on, those choices get heavier. Not harder, heavier. There's no one to bounce ideas off. No one to say, you already wore that sweater yesterday, or let's just order takeout tonight. You're the one managing everything, appointments, bills, groceries, home maintenance, and that mental load can slowly wear you down. It doesn't feel overwhelming at first. It feels like just life, but over time, it starts to show. You forget things, you feel foggy, you lose motivation. This is why routines aren't just helpful, they're protective. They reduce the number of choices you have to make. And more importantly, they give your mind breathing room. Set up weekly habits. Grocery day on Thursday. Laundry on Sunday. Call your friend on Tuesday mornings. Light dinner every Friday night. These small rhythms anchor your week and keep you grounded. And don't be afraid to simplify. You don't have to cook a new meal every night. You don't have to answer every phone call. You don't have to keep everything perfect. Focus your energy where it matters most, on staying well, staying connected, and staying curious. And that brings me to the next thing people rarely talk about. Curiosity fades faster than we realize. Living alone can shrink your world without you noticing. You stop trying new recipes because no one's there to eat with. You stop reading new books because there's no one to discuss them with. You stop exploring new ideas because the days start feeling too routine. But let me say this loud and clear. Curiosity keeps you alive. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Make a list of 5 things you've always wanted to try but never did. Maybe it's learning to paint, or playing the piano, or taking up birdwatching, or learning how to use a smartphone better. Choose one, just one, and take a small step toward it. Your world only stays small if you stop reaching for more of it. And don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about being the best. Just be engaged. Be interested. That's what lights the fire again. Because here's the truth. Even if you live alone, you're still writing your story. You're not in the final chapter. You're in a new one. And yes, it looks different than before. But different doesn't mean less. It means undiscovered. And the only way to keep discovering is to keep moving forward. Keep asking questions. Keep making plans. Keep waking up with something to look forward to. Even if it's as simple as a hot cup of tea and the first bird you hear singing outside your window. So what have we talked about so far? Living alone after 70 can feel like freedom and like a fog. It can give you space and make you feel invisible. It demands that you become your own anchor, your own compass, your own reason to get up in the morning. But you're stronger than you think. There's something strange that starts to happen when the quiet becomes your normal. You begin to shrink yourself without realizing it, not just in movement or plans, but in identity. You stop sharing stories because you assume no one wants to hear them. You stop dressing up because, well, who's going to see you? You stop celebrating birthdays because it feels odd to put candles on a cake for one. But here's the thing most people won't say out loud. You don't stop being you just because no one else is in the room. You're still the person who once danced in kitchens, told jokes at the dinner table, stayed up late talking about dreams, and comforted others when life got hard. That person isn't gone. They're just waiting for permission to show up again. And the permission has to come from you. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something just because it brought you joy? Not because it was productive, not because it was on a to-do list, but because it reminded you you're alive? Maybe it's music, something from your youth that still stirs your heart. Maybe it's cooking a favorite dish, even if it's just for yourself. Maybe it's pulling out old photo albums and telling those stories aloud, not for anyone else, but to remind yourself of who you've been. Joy isn't a luxury in old age. It's fuel, and you're allowed to feel it. You need to feel it, because when joy leaves the room, decay moves in, which brings us to something people rarely connect with: solitude, the way it changes your relationship with your body. When you live alone, there's no one around to notice if you're moving slower, if you're a little more forgetful, if you stopped eating as much. No one say, "You've been coughing a lot lately," or "You seem off today." That silence can be dangerous. Small declines go unnoticed. Minor issues become major before anyone realizes. And because you're used to handling things on your own, you might delay asking for help, even when you really need it. That's why one of the most important habits to develop is checking in with yourself. Take 5 minutes each morning to do a body scan. Ask yourself, how do my legs feel today? Is my balance steady? Did I eat enough yesterday? Have I been sleeping deeply or waking often? Write it down if it helps. Track your patterns, because awareness is your safety net now. No one's watching over you day to day. You are the guardian of your well-being, and that's not scary. It's empowering once you make a habit. And if something feels off, don't wait. Call the doctor, reach out to a friend, ask questions. You're not being a burden. You're being responsible. You're choosing to value your life enough to protect it. Now, here's another truth you may not have expected. Living alone makes grief feel different. Not just the big losses like a spouse or a close friend, but the smaller, quieter ones too. The kind nobody talks about. The loss of routine, the loss of daily touch, the absence of shared meals, the moment when you laugh at something and turn to say it aloud, but no one is there. These tiny griefs add up, and without anyone around to witness them, they can sit in your heart for years unspoken. But you don't have to carry them alone. One of the most healing things you can do is give your emotions somewhere to land. Write letters to those you miss, to your younger self, even to your future self. Light a candle and say their name. Frame a memory. Tell the story out loud. Grief doesn't need to be hidden. It needs to be honored. And just as important as grieving the past is welcoming the present and even the future. Because yes, there is still a future. Even if you're 73, 78, 85, there is still more road ahead. And what you do now shapes how smooth or how bumpy that road becomes. So take a look at your habits. Are you moving your body a little every day? Stretching, walking, standing up from your chair of purpose? It doesn't have to be exercise. It just has to be movement. Are you challenging your brain? Learning a new skill? Trying a puzzle? Watching a documentary? Writing your thoughts? Are you staying hydrated? Eating enough protein? Drinking water even when you're not thirsty? Because here's the quiet truth about aging that no one celebrates enough. You still have influence over how you age. It's not just genetics. It's not just luck. It's daily, gentle decision. Choosing the stairs, calling the friend, turning off the news and going outside, listening to music instead of sitting in silence. These little things, they matter more now than ever before. Because you're not just living out your days, you're still building them. So don't let the world shrink around you. Yes, you live alone, but that doesn't mean your life has to feel small. You still have something to offer, something to enjoy, something to become. You are still the author of this chapter, and it's not over yet. There's a moment, often quiet, often late in the day, when you realize you've made it this far, through the losses, through the changes, through every twist life handed you, and yet something still feels unfinished. Not because something's missing, but because something's still possible. This is what nobody tells you about living alone after 70. There's still time to surprise yourself. Yes, there are moments of silence. Yes, there are tasks that get harder. Yes, some people have drifted away. But there is also strength in solitude. There is power in knowing that you are still here and still becoming. Because the truth is, when you live alone, you also live free. Free to rediscover the things you once loved. Free to let go of routines that no longer serve you. Free to stop worrying about what others think and simply choose you. This freedom can feel daunting at first, like standing in an open field with no path forward. But that's not emptiness. That's a blank canvas. You get to choose what you paint now. So maybe you start writing letters again, or journaling, or sharing your wisdom in an online group. Maybe you take up sketching or start walking at sunrise. Maybe you talk to plants or sing in the shower, or wear bright colors just because they make you feel alive. There's no rule that says life has to be muted after 70. In fact, now is the time to live more boldly. Because the fear of judgment, it fades. The need to impress, gone. What's left is what's real, and that's where beauty lives. But none of this works if you don't believe you're worth the effort. That's the final truth I want to share with you. You have to believe you're worth showing up for, even if it's just you in the room. Wake up and make your bed, not because someone's coming over, but because you deserve a tidy space. Cook something nourishing, not because there's company, but because you deserve good food. Wear the nice shirt, burn the good candle, play the music loud, write the story, take the picture, plant the flower. Don't wait for someone else to make your life feel rich. You have everything you need to do it yourself. And here's a secret most people overlook. The people who thrive after 70 aren't the ones with the biggest families, or the fullest calendars, or the best health. They're the ones who stay interested in life. They stay curious. They stay kind. They stay willing to adapt. They're not chasing youth. They're owning their age with pride, with presence, and with purpose. So if you're still watching this video, and you've been nodding along, maybe feeling a little seen, know this: you are not behind. You are not too late. You are not invisible. You are in a powerful chapter of life. A chapter where you have time to reflect deeply. A chapter where you can connect more honestly. A chapter where you finally get to decide who you want to be, without permission, without apology. And if there's something you've always wanted to do, now is your time to start. It doesn't matter how big or small. What matters is that it lights you up. What matters is that it makes you feel alive in your own skin, in your own space, in this very moment. Living alone after 70 doesn't have to be a story of loneliness. It can be a story of rediscovery, of peace, of quiet confidence, of making your days matter, not because someone is watching, but because you are. And if you've been holding back, waiting for someone else to call, to visit, to remember, maybe this is the moment you remember yourself. Because when you do, everything changes. The silence becomes softer. The routines become rituals. The stillness becomes strength. And that feeling you've been waiting for, the one that says, I'm still here, I still matter, that begins the moment you choose to believe it. So if this message speaks to you, leave a comment below. Tell us something small you're going to do this week, just for you. And if this video brought you comfort, clarity, or just a sense of connection, give it a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more content made to support your journey, not just through aging, but through thriving, because this is your time. Here's to living with dignity, with joy, with courage, and above all, with purpose. You're not done yet, and we're right here with you.